So I would like to ask one question that is also stemming from this, and it's about support system. Many of y'all, well, Jessica, you said that your support system mainly came from yourself and the lack of having people that look like you. And Shelbe, you had a professor that looked like you and was very smart. I would want to understand, what do you think, what is important for you when you're looking for somebody to be a support system? And how is it important that you can relate to that person as well when it comes to them being your support system?
I'll start. Support system, to have someone to look like me, I feel that it's unfortunate that it's not many, but that's what drives me, because we can do it too. And I want to show that to the world. And but it is important to have a support system. And I would say that, yes, mainly it came from within, but I also have to give credit. I've been with my partner going on 16 years. He's in law enforcement. He's a African descent. And when he met me at 17, he said, you're going to go somewhere in life. And I'm like, me? My parents are in housing. I am Hispanic. There is nothing. He's like, no, there's something inside of you. No, seriously. So we laugh about it now. 16 years later, he's like, look at this one, the one that thought that nothing could be possible. And it's such heartwarming to me, just to have that life, that journey. And I can look back and say, wow, I made it. And because I didn't have that support system that looked like me, I'm willing now to give that support system to the next person. So I'm here today, right? We're all here today. We all somewhat look alike. And I want to show, Shelbe and Shannyn and Samanda and Lori, that if you have someone who's Hispanic, have them call me. I am going to put fire inside their soul that they're probably going to go zooming right through school, because I wish I had someone to give me that lift, that push. And I probably wouldn't have over $120,000 in school loans. I probably would have been able to, apply for scholarships and look here and look there. And I mean, hopefully I answer the question, but yes, I hope to be a support system to the next person. Yeah.
I'd say support system. It's people who remind you of who you are. So I was on the phone last night with my friend Justin. I've known him, we've known one another for almost 25 years, which is kind of crazy. And he and I, it was my first or second job out of college when he and I worked together. And because we were first work colleagues and then he worked for me and we developed a friendship, he will remind me of who I am when I feel like I'm a little lost, or you forget what you've accomplished, how much you've impacted other people, and you need a little reminder. So I'll have another reminder in a couple of weeks because Lori and I are having dinner.
That's right.
And so it's the support system of people who will, remind you of who you are. And my mother, same thing, because I can talk to her about anything. And similarly to Jessica, it's acknowledging that now that you're an example. So that's a motivator as well. And I mentioned the Capital Boutique came from research that I was doing at MIT Sloan around female founders, lagging male founders in venture financing. But actually the first research project that I wanted to work on was to understand more about the system dynamics that led to there not being any Indigenous people in the C-suite in biotech in Boston. But that seemed like such a big problem to understand during a couple of months at MIT, but that still remains, I'd say, something that I want to unravel, because I think about myself having gone to Harvard. I have an MBA from MIT Sloan, and I'm not close to the C-suite. Like, what is that system that holds back people of color and Indigenous people in particular, from my perspective? So yeah, I think having the support system to remind you who you are, so that you can continue to shine and be that example for others.
I really love that. Like that reminding of who you are is key. We tend to lose ourselves sometimes in our jobs, and the more you interact with people and you see, especially as a women of color, and speaking for myself, you talk to people and you're like, am I doing the right thing? Am I thinking of it correctly? And not knowing that you are, and you're doing an amazing job. So that was phenomenal. Shelby?
Yeah, I think similarly to the others, my family is a big part of that. My parents, there's kind of like this running thing. Many of y'all might have experienced this too, that like children of immigrants, their parents like really push them into like being a doctor, engineering, or law, like one of the three. And it's like so much pressure if you don't want to do that. But my parents never pressured me. Like I chose engineering by chance, but my parents never pressured me to do anything like, oh, you always have to get these grades, or you always have to do this and this. They were actually really supportive all along the way. And so I really appreciate them a lot still. And even now when I get like really upset over something, or really like stressed, or really feeling like I don't belong here, I can call my mom and just cry and cry. And, you know, she'll be so supportive. And so that's really helpful. I think also like support systems can look different ways. So for example, in the MIT chemical engineering department, it always blows my mind. The top two people, in the department are Black women. Dr. Paula Hammond and Dr. Chris Prather are the chair and associate chair of the department. And so now they become somewhat of a support system too, right? It looks different. I'm not going to go crying in their office because they're busy people. Can't just walk in there like that. But like even I have my own podcast, An Engineer's Journey, and Dr. Hammond agreed to be on my podcast. And I was so shocked by that because, you know, she's so busy. She has not a lot of time on her hands. And she took an hour out of her day to do that for me. And so now that's even Dr. Prather. She took all the Black women in the department out to lunch one day just to talk with us and encourage us. It's only 5 of us in the whole department. And so just having that support system now, it looks really different, but it's also really helpful and encouraging all the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it sounds like support systems don't, from what you're all talking about too, it doesn't have to be a person. There are people within the discipline and the field that you're in, but also having that external support to kind of like retether you when things feel a little overwhelming is really helpful as well. Yeah. So do you think that, and this is generally speaking, that organizations are on the right track in terms of strategies used to engage and retain women in STEM? I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on that, and not only just like what's missing, but also like what is working, like what are models that are successful that we could try and replicate elsewhere?
That's a tough question, Lori. So I'm thinking, as you were asking the question, I was thinking about the McKinsey report on women in the workplace, and you can see from the report that women of color are not making it into the C-suite or on boards. And so it makes me wonder if the initiatives that companies do, is it more performative than it really is going to be impactful? And are the people who are implementing or instituting different initiatives internally, do they look like the people they're trying to impact? So I think about, Jessica, what you were sharing about how when you're out in the community, they're like, wow, there's someone like me, which makes you more comfortable and wanting to come forward and say yes to the vaccine because you're hearing from somebody who looks like you that you would trust. So I don't know, Lori. I think there's a long way to go.
I feel like it is a very loaded question for sure. But like, if it's helpful, I went to this conference, maybe if this is a helpful anecdote. I was at a conference and we were the group was talking about getting more women on boards, especially women of color on boards. And the discussion was around like, what does that look like? How do we make that happen? And so someone stood up in the audience, asked a question, be like, you know, what do I need to do to kind of get to this space? And the entire panel was like training. And this was actually a catalyst for myself too, in terms of like how I looked at this. And so this old lady, she stood up in the middle of the audience and just yelled. She was like, why are we making women do all this training and trying to fit these women into male molds, like white male molds, right? It's not the measure of success. It's opposite of what we should be doing. Because if we use that as a measure for success for women, it's never going to work. because we're not that.
Yeah, totally agree. It's that like training, you need training to be on a board, training to do this. And it's not an ability factor. It's that there maybe lack of mentorship for people who don't look like you. Not speaking to us. I mentor women who look like me because how are you going to otherwise really advance your career? But internally, it's the people who are in those positions of leadership seeking out mentor opportunities with people who don't look like them. That would be the difference. I don't know if there's a DE&I initiative that would be the answer. I think it could start small, as someone being self-aware enough to say, oh, I need to think about mentoring or sponsoring, maybe more sponsoring, because that's, if you have the right sponsor, they're going to talk you up behind closed doors when it's time for promotions, when it's time for bonuses, they'll be the one to talk you up.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's, sorry, Shannon.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's there is no one way to actually bring in any initiatives. Just like there's no same way to say training is the way that women are going to get into those boards. But one of the things that I know that MassBio does, and I'm really excited about, is that we have a DEI survey that we send out to our members and a lot to the life sciences, just to get the temperature of what DEI means for them. And it's a very open and honest conversation around like, what do they need to do to have more diversity? And when we say diversity of thought, diversity of color, diversity of age, of ability in their industry and in their company specifically. So we actually have our next report coming. 2023, we're doing another survey. And we're sending it out to our members and non-members of MassBio so that we can also aggregate information to just learn about what we can do in the life sciences, just because we support the life sciences and we definitely want to see it do more. We want to see more representation in the boards, science, in all of the career levels. So it's, I would say there's many different ways to do it. I do believe what you said, Shannon, is acknowledging where you are and how you can do that too. So like stepping outside of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the listening, like you're describing the surveys, the listening is really important, and sincere listening. And then after the listening, okay, what action can be taken?
Yeah, for sure. And also not having that, because I know it specifically for me, if somebody tells me something that I feel like is contradictory to what I think of myself, I'm like, no, that's not the case. But also like, actually like acknowledging like, okay, this is beyond you, so you have to actually take the time to understand that this person is seeing something differently. So how is it that you can truly make change? So
yes.
Mm-hmm. I have one question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And it's also not a pipeline issue. So, there's not a pipeline of women in STEM. There's the pipeline. It's that they're not making it past, let's say, manager level in their organizations. Mm-hmm. So as you were mentioning, Samanda, the survey and listening and actually being intentional and deliberate about how do you make sure that women of color are advancing.
I have one question. What advice would you give to little Shannon, little Shelbe, and little Jessica? From now your many years of lives, like what would you say to them if you could?
I will tell her that it's possible. Don't be scared. Keep fighting. I'll share with you guys, at the age of 14, I was sexually assaulted. I thought my life was going to end. Something was taken away from me forcefully, something that I can never get back. So transitioning from a teenager to someone of an adult, my brain kind of turned off. And I told myself, this is it. I no longer am moving forward. I'm in this black hole. No one's going to understand. And coming from an Hispanic family, you are taught to be strong. That's it. You fight until the last breath you have. And I'm thankful for that. Some people might think that is a very strong way to raise your kids, but I am so thankful because at that moment when I was going through that, I fought and I got out and now I'm here. So I will tell myself just to keep fighting. I think life has hit me from all angles. I have lost family members. I have gone sicknesses. My parents have been in and out the ICU. I'm the caretaker of both of them. Being the youngest one is probably one of the reasons why I don't have any kids right now, because I feel like I'm on drive all the time. And sometimes I have to be reminded, like, you need to take a break, because my adrenaline is just going and going and going. But most importantly, I will tell my younger self not to quit and just to keep fighting, because there is definitely a light at the end of the tunnel. It's so cliche, but it's true, because I'll be 34 this year. So 20 years ago, I would have never, ever imagined that I'll be here. At the time, I'm like, I'm going to go to a psych ward, or God knows what I'm going to do with my life. Just keep fighting, because you could do it.
Yeah, I would tell myself, I think, to take the time to enjoy life more. I always say I'm like a chronic worrier. I feel like I have gotten better, but I stress a lot. I worry a lot all the time. I think especially that was the case in like high school and beginning of college. And I had no time to enjoy life, to like enjoy meeting new people, to enjoy like awards that I maybe got, or ways that getting to places I never thought I'd be able to get. I would just be like, okay, great, on to the next thing now. Got to work hard again and stress about that. And I think it was towards the end of my college years that I started to kind of realize, like, this is no way to live and this is not sustainable. And I feel like I have improved some, but I wish sometimes I could just go back and like spend a little more time like enjoying life and really just taking account of all my blessings and appreciating them. So that's what I would tell myself.
I would tell my younger self that it's really easy to compare yourself to other people and feel like you're behind, but you are your measuring stick and you are your own benchmark and your journey is uniquely yours. And to remember that. Very easy to fall into the trap of comparing yourself to other people, going on LinkedIn, scrolling and saying, feeling like you haven't accomplished enough, but just that you are your own measuring stick.
Well, that's when I got just, I don't know, a therapy session. My therapist is going to be happy about that. I'd say, yeah, that's, thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Jessica, Shannyn, and Shelbe, for joining us for this first ever video recording and celebrating Women's History Month with us. We really appreciate you spending the time here.
And thank you for sharing your stories. You guys are amazing. I'm looking forward to connect with each and every one of you guys. So continue on doing all the great works that you are doing. And thank you so much, Jessica, for being that representation, being out in the forefront. Thanks, Shelbe, for just being in the lab and representing for us. And Shannyn, thank you for founding the Capital Boutique. And I am very excited to continue to have these conversations with more women. And to be sure everybody to follow us and on our channel at MassBio _ and at Thinkubator _media. We will be dropping these videos the following week. So one a week, and just, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it's such an inspiration. Wish we could have more time to
Absolutely.
pick your brains. I feel like it just went by so quick. So.
I know. It's like I definitely had more questions, and I'm like, well, maybe, yeah, it's about to be one. You guys are busy, and
yeah, we got like through 4 of the questions we wanted to ask, so much more. So maybe this isn't it.
Part 1.
We'll be reaching out again. That's what Lori is saying.
Right. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate all of you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.